All right, doesn't look like the sun is going to let me be great for this video. Um, we'll try either way. What happened the first time I met my stepdaughter's father? What's up, YouTube? I'm the real Rayhan, and if you're new to the channel, I tell real life stories about different experiences I've had in life, at work, relationships, various things, in hopes that I can help you navigate how to make better decisions or how to avoid some of the mistakes that I may have made earlier in my life. But before I get started with today's video, I want to remind you guys that I have launched channel memberships here on the channel where I will be providing early access to members, and some videos will be member exclusive videos. So if you are interested in becoming a member of the channel, the link to do so is in the description of this video. It is very affordable. I want to give a huge shout out to Mr. Andrew Arroyo. Please forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He is the newest member of the channel. And to Andrew Arroyo, I want to say thank you, gratitude, and I definitely appreciate your continued support and your engagement here on the channel. But without any further delay, let's jump into the story of what took place the first time I met my stepdaughter's father. All right. So it's no secret to you guys that have been with me here on the channel that I was previously married and my ex wife brought a child into the marriage. At the time, I believe my stepdaughter, or at the time that I had met her, this was before I became her stepfather. I believe I believe she was 4 years old. She was old enough to attend school. She was in either kindergarten or the first grade. 4 years old, I believe that's kindergarten, something to that nature. Maybe I could be wrong. Um, Either way, this particular story starts. I want to say maybe a few months after my ex-wife and I started dating. Obviously, if I'm dating her and she has a child, I have to come in contact with her child. It wasn't a lot of contact initially. A lot of the contact that initially took place would take place at her parents' house because they had a nice 400, $500,000 home where, her, how many other siblings? I think three of her other siblings lived there along with her mother, stepfather, two dogs, and whatever the hell they had going on there. So a lot of the early contact I was having with her child was at that particular residence. And then when our dating became very exclusive and more intimate in nature, that's when I had to start coming in contact with her daughter. So this particular story begins. Um, my ex-wife and I, we actually were members of, that sounds very cultish. We were actually in a multi-level marketing company called Secret Skincare. It's like minerals from the Dead Sea. And they sold the company, or branded the company, saying that the skincare products, regardless of what they were, contained minerals from the Dead Sea. And if you guys know anything about the Dead Sea, the supposed stories are the minerals that are in the Dead Sea can help revitalize your skin. It's kind of like a fountain of youth, is I guess the best way to explain it. So she and I met actually as members of this particular multi-level marketing company. Now, during this particular time, she, her mother, and her stepfather, who were also members, I can't recall whose team we were all on, but what they would do is they would do things like have these events, and they would have these huge events, and they would very often have them in different states and in major cities to try to attract more members to the organization. And if you know anything about these MLM companies, what they basically are is kind of like I want to say like a pyramid scheme, but in order for you to get promoted, you have to sign up a certain number of members underneath you or onto your team, and they fall underneath you, and it kind of creates a pyramid effect to where you're just steadily going up the more members you put underneath you. That's how you get your promotions. Your promotions determine how much you get paid. All of that is irrelevant and beside the point of this story, however. But that's what was particularly going on this weekend. My ex-wife, who was just my girlfriend at that time, and her mother and stepfather, they were traveling out of state to go to if I'm not mistaken, Phoenix, Arizona, to go to this really big event that Secret Skincare Minerals from the Dead Sea was hosting to attract more users. Now, on this particular weekend, I do believe that it was my ex wife's weekend to have her daughter. So the custody arrangement between her and her daughter's father, they had 50-50 joint physical and 50-50 joint legal custody of the child. But it was not, it was kind of weird the way it was set up. So every other weekend, being Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the child would be with one parent. Then the other parent would get the child Monday and Tuesday. And then the other parent who had him over the weekend would get the child on Wednesday and Thursday. And then the weekend would swap Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was crazy, but it worked out to where each parent had the child for 7 days, at 7 days every 2 weeks. So it broke down to joint 50 custody. On this particular week, like I said, my ex-wife was traveling to Phoenix, Arizona to attend an MLM event. She was traveling with her mother and her stepfather. It was her weekend to have her child with her. So I believe it was on I believe this took place on a Friday. She dropped on a Friday. She had her brother drop her daughter off at elementary school. Is what actually took place. And let me back up for 1 second. Prior to her brother dropping her daughter off to school, I want to say a couple nights before, she had spoken to her child's father, and she was asking him if it was possible that they could switch weekends because she's going to be traveling out of town this particular weekend, and she was going to be gone the entire weekend, and she knows it's her weekend to have their daughter. So she was like, hey, do you want to switch weekends, or do you just want to have an extra weekend with her? And his response was that no, he couldn't do it. He had to work. He had to go out of town too to serve some type of warrant or something like that. And just for proper background, he was a county sheriff. Um, so he expressed to her that he was unable to do it, so she had to look for other means. Um, by him not being able to do it, her mother and her stepfather and she traveling out of state, she came to me as the alternative and was like, well, hey, when my daughter gets out of school on this day, can you pick her up from school and just take her back to my mom's house where my brother, who is her uncle, is going to be with his son and my two other siblings? And I was like, yeah, yeah, I could do that. That shouldn't be a big deal. I'm off on that particular day anyway, so it shouldn't interfere with anything that I had to do. Okay. Now comes Friday. Her brother drops the daughter off at school. Okay. But I can't recall what the issue was, but he wasn't going to be able to pick her up from school at the time she got out. I think he was either at work until a certain time. It was something to that effect. I can't recall. Um, so I was asked to do it, and of course I'm gonna do that. It was going to save her some trouble having to figure things out. So I said sure. I go up to the school. Obviously, she provided me with the address. She told me the time that school lets out. She told me who her teacher was and what the procedure was for picking up students at the end of school. So I drove my car up there. Not the car I'm sitting in. I drove my other car, which is a Dodge Charger. It's an SRT8. It is bright red, sitting on 20-inch rims. I mean, it turns heads. Okay, this is for the story, not bragging purposes. So I drive that particular car up there. At the time, it was one of two cars that I had. So I drive that particular car up there because that was my move around car. That was a car that I really like driving and like to be seen in. Okay. I drive up to the school and I pull into the parking lot. Now I'm somebody who's very punctual. So I wanted to make sure that I got there maybe 10, 15 minutes before school actually let out so I can kind of see how this thing takes place. Here's what actually happened prior to me getting there. Shortly after my stepdaughter was dropped off, let me stop saying stepdaughter because she wasn't my stepdaughter at the time. Shortly after my girlfriend's child was dropped off, I want to say a few hours into her school day, she got sick. Okay. And she got sick to the point where somebody needed to come pick her up from school. I want to say this was around 9. I think school started at 7:30, 7:45, and I want to say like around 9:30 she had gotten sick. So at about 9:40 the school started calling the parents to figure out who was going to come pick her up. Now, if you guys know anything about custody arrangements and when the school has to deal with many different parents, things can get a little bit confusing because the school doesn't keep up with the schedule. They'll just call parents of the child that is having an issue to come address what the issue is. Okay. She gets sick. The school calls, I believe they call mom first. Okay. Which would be my girlfriend. They call her first. She's on an airplane. She's headed to the Midwest of Phoenix, Arizona. Her phone is not getting any reception, whatever the case may be. They call her first, leave a voicemail. She wasn't able to answer the call. They leave the voicemail. She's not able to even get the voicemail in time. This needs to be addressed. Whatever she's sick with, it needs to be addressed. When they didn't get an answer or return call from mom within whatever their estimated amount of time was, they called dad, which would be my ex girlfriend's daughter's father. Okay. They call him and they explain to him, hey, she's sick. Somebody needs to come pick her up from school. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, no, 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 no. It was not her brother that dropped her off at school. It was her father that dropped her off to school because they were changing weekends. So he had her Thursday night. He dropped her off at school Friday morning, and she was expected to be with mom Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So her dad actually dropped her off at school at 7:40 that morning. Okay. Not her uncle. Her dad actually dropped her off. They called dad. They explained to dad she's sick. Somebody needs to come get her, yada, yada. Dad has to drop what he's doing, which obviously means he has to leave work and he has to come back to get his daughter. Now, when he comes back to pick her up, I'm not sure where he took her, whether he took her with him to work, whether he took her home. I'm not sure where he took her because he picked her up shortly after the school day started. Mind you, none of this information is being relayed to my girlfriend at the time. She's still on a plane, still headed to Phoenix. She still has no clue of any of this taking place. And the last thing I know of is that, hey, I'm going to pick her up after school because her father said that he couldn't do it because he was going to be out of town. And when I pick her up, I'm going to be taking her to her grandmother's house and leaving her with her brother and, well, I guess two of her uncles and her aunt, which would be my girlfriend's three younger siblings that lived in the same house with her mother and stepfather. Okay. Easy peasy. Is my part in it is easy peasy anyway. But they call dad. Dad picks her up. He has her with him all day long during the school day, and he brings her back to the school. I want to say at the time the school was supposed to let out. Okay. I show up to the school at, I want to say it was like 2:30. I think I got there maybe 2:20. I sat in my car for maybe 5-10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, so I don't see any children that are coming out of the school yet. And then that's when I remembered that my girlfriend explained to me that when you get there, you'll have to ring the intercom, let them know which student you're picking up, and then they will release the student to you. I've already spoken to the school and told them who you are and that you're coming to pick her up. Just make sure that you bring a copy of your ID so they can identify you as the person that I told you you were, told them you were. Okay. Easy peasy once again. So like I said, I get there maybe 5-10 minutes before time. I pull up, told you I drove my red Charger, SRTA, sitting on 20-inch chrome, black tinted out. Um, and I pull up and I'm blasting. I think at the time I'm listening to an album that Jay-Z did with Linkin Park. It's called Collision Course. If you haven't heard it, it's a fucking phenomenal album. It's a mixture of Jay-Z's lyrics over top of Linkin Park beats or Linkin Park lyrics over top of Jay-Z beats. And the way it comes together is like fucking peanut butter and jelly. It's fascinating. At the time, that was my favorite album. So I'm blasting that shit, right? I pull into the parking lot, park my car. I get out and I walk around the front of my car from the driver's side door. I walk around the front of my car to go to the passenger side back door because I want to make sure that I clear out, that she has the appropriate amount of space that she needs so that she can sit, put her seatbelt on. I can see her. We can still, speak, to make sure that her comfort level is there. Not to say that she was going to be uncomfortable. She was familiar with me at this time. Um, so while I do that, the music is still playing. Now I've got two doors open and my music is somewhat blasting. You know what I mean? Loud enough to where if you're in the parking lot, you'll know somebody else is in the parking lot and they're fucking listening to Linkin Park and Jay-Z. After I clear out her side of the car, I close that door, and I walk back around to the front of the car. Now, as I'm walking to the front of the car, I notice that there's a vehicle parked right across from me, right? It's a sheriff's vehicle. And I noticed there's a guy, he's sitting in front of the car in the driver's seat. There's a woman sitting in the passenger seat. And I can tell there were some occupants in the rear, but I couldn't see who they were. I didn't think anything of this. Like I said, this is the end of the school day. There are a lot of parents coming up here to pick up their children. I'm thinking these are just exactly that. This is a dad and a mom that are coming to pick up their child from school. Nothing, I mean, there was nothing else I could think of it. But I noticed as I was walking past the front of my car, the guy kind of had this agitated look on his face. Like he was really looking like, and I'm just kind of like, oh, this motherfucker hating on this red charger. That's all it is. He see this red and he see these 20-inch chrome, this black tinted out in this Lincoln Park. This motherfucker's hating on my car. No big deal because I'm used to people giving me that look or a similar look when they see me in that car. Not to mention, I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 200 at the time. I think I was 215 pounds. I'm jacked. You know what I mean? And I'm wearing a freaking Abercrombie and Fitch sweater, and I wear it tight to the point where it almost like Under Armour on me, if that makes any sense. It's tight, so you can see every rip in my arm, everything in my back. You can see every muscle everywhere from the torso up. And I'm like, yeah, this motherfucker's hating. He see this car, he see these muscles, he's pissed. You know what I mean? But no big deal. His wife is sitting next to him too, so she probably got that look on her face like, who is that? You know what I'm saying? So that further adds to why he's looking at me like he wants to tear my head off. It was kind of funny to me, so I kind of laughed it off just a little bit. Closed the driver's side door, and I proceeded to the front of the school. Remembering the instructions that came from my girlfriend, ring the intercom, which I did, and over the intercom, the main office comes on. They say the name of the school, how may I help you? I can't remember the name of the school, but they say, main office, how can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here to pick up a student. And they're like, okay, what's the student's name you're here to pick up? So I tell them the daughter's name, and they're like, hold on for a second. She's already been picked up. You cannot imagine the amount of anxiety that I'm feeling at the fact that I'm sent here with a very simple task. The simple task is pick this child up and drive her back to my parents' house and drop her off with her two uncles and her aunt who live in that house, all of which are familiar with me and the daughter. I'm like, what do you mean she's already been picked up? Like, I don't even know what to do at this point. And they're like, yeah, she's already been picked up. So I'm like, who picked her up? That's when I hear a voice beside me say, yeah, 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 you don't have to worry about her. I already picked her up. I turn around, I look. It's the guy that was sitting in the driver's seat of the sheriff's vehicle, the guy that was looking at me with the stewy face, right? And I'm like, nigga, who are you? And he like, well, I'm her father. And I'm like, you're her father? I'm like, wait, I'm confused, bro. And he's like, yeah, yeah, you don't need to worry about that. Listen, I'm just only here to tell you that I don't need some strange man coming up to my daughter's school, picking her up and trying to take her anywhere. I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. And the school doesn't know you. And I've already told them that they're not to have any contact with you. I'm like, bro, the reason I'm here is because her mother asked me to pick her up because she said when she asked you to do so, you told her that you weren't going to be able to do so because you were going to be out of town serving some type of warrant. When I said that, he kind of had this look like he wasn't sure how to respond. Like that was information that he didn't think I was supposed to know, right? Now I also noticed that the entire time he had his right hand in his pocket, mind you, this is the same guy that got out of a sheriff's vehicle. So I'm saying to myself, this guy must know he's going to get his ass kicked and he must be trying to get his ass kicked, right? He's got something in his pocket, which I assumed could have only been a weapon. Or maybe he was recording, or maybe it was both. Okay. But I knew that I'm observant enough to see that he had his hand in his pocket during this entire situation. And he was trying to talk like he was in charge, like he was like the authority figure, like a sheriff would talk to somebody who's committed a crime, right? So when I said that, he kind of, like I said, he looked a little bit confused and he kept trying to talk with his finger. Now, I want to give you guys a visual description of this guy. He's about 5'6", maybe 5'7". Matter of fact, 5'7". If you guys are familiar with Looney Tunes, picture Porky Pig wearing a police uniform. That is literally what this guy looks like. 5'7", overweight. I mean, stocky look, but you know it's overweight. Big, round, circular face. He literally looks like a fucking pig, like with a sheriff's uniform on. Now, he didn't have the sheriff uniform on when he approached me. He was wearing sweatpants, a bomber jacket, or some type of light jacket, t-shirt, tennis shoes. Like he was off duty, but I knew this was the same guy that got out of the sheriff's vehicle. So, like I said, while he's doing all of this talking with his finger, almost like, and I'm like, hey, bro, check this out. I just explained to you while I was here to pick her up. Now, I don't want you to get things twisted and think that because you got out of a sheriff's vehicle, it doesn't mean that I won't stomp your fucking face in. All right. You want to take a few steps back. You want to take the bass out of your voice. You're not in control in this situation, my guy. And he was like, well, I am in control because I'm her dad. And I'm the one that makes the determinations about, who she's going to be around and who can pick her up from school and all of that. I said, bruh, I tell you what, I'm up here. I'm like, I wish you would have called her mother and told her that you was going to come pick her up because that would have saved me the trip. I'm actually sick right now, G. But you know what? Since you already got her, you her father, cool. Go ahead and call her mother. Let her know you got her. I'm going to go ahead and step off. So as I started walking away from him, he was kind of walking behind me and he was still talking in a kind of antagonizing way, like he was trying to annoy me. That's when I was able to put together what he was doing, which is, like I said, he was trying to provoke a physical altercation in front of his daughter's school. Now, mind you, my girlfriend, my ex-wife, girlfriend at the time, explained to me that this is what his nature is. He's always trying to like scheme and try to find a way to emotionally provoke people so that he can use whatever police tactics that he wants to use to try to establish authority in the situation. Now, I keep remembering him having his hand in his pocket, and it clicked of what I just stated. And I'm like, okay, he probably has his service weapon in his pants, and he's waiting for me to punch him so that he can say I had to shoot this guy. And I had to do it out of self-defense because he's so much bigger than me. He's so much stronger than me. Like, it was no way I was physically going to be able to beat him. Like, all of this is starting to click what this guy's doing. So I keep walking. And then I stop for a second when I realize that he's following me. I say, hey, bro, I'm walking in my car. You need to turn your fat ass around. You need to walk back to your sheriff's vehicle. Your vehicle's over that way. If you keep walking behind me, I'm going to beat the living shit out you. And he kind of stopped for a second, like, which also kind of leads me to believe that a part of what was being said between he and I, he was recording it. And the fact that I'm saying things as they're happening is, again, something he wasn't expecting me to do. So I get back to my car. He goes to his. Mind you, we're parked right across from each other. I get in my car. When I get in my car, I start the engine and then I grab my phone. I look, he's in his car. He's got the engine started, but he isn't pulling off. Mind you, his daughter, who I was there to pick up, is sitting in the back of the car along with her her step brother, who's the same age, and her step sister and her stepmother. Like the whole family is in his sheriff's car, right? But he's not pulling off. So I pick up the phone. I call my girlfriend at the time, and I'm explaining to her. I'm like, yo, she actually answered the phone, which means she must have landed by this time. And I'm pretty sure she was going to because I had to call her to let her know how smoothly everything went. So when I call her, I'm like, yo, you want to call your daughter's father right now, because if this motherfucker, but he just was like 2 seconds away from getting his fucking face stomped in out here in the front of the school. And she's like, what happened? And I'm like, yo, this nigga came up to me while I was trying to pick your daughter up, like you asked me to do. He had already had her with him, but instead of leaving with her, it's like he waited for me for an opportunity to say something to me. She was like, I'm gonna call you back. She hangs up the phone. I'm assuming she calls him immediately after that. And I'm kind of, like I said, me sitting on the phone with her probably took about 2 minutes. Um, but I sat there long enough to see what he was doing. Now, she called him right after she called me. And then while he was on the phone, I pulled off. No, actually, he pulled off first. I'm sorry. He pulls off first. So I was like, that's strange. Now, a lot of you guys don't know that while I did work for an incredibly long time as an armed security officer, I also worked as a 911 emergency dispatcher. Okay. In order to be a 911 emergency dispatcher, there's certain training that you have to pass, and there's certain systems that you need to know how to manipulate. One of them is called Wales, and the other one is called NCIC. These are systems that you have to be incredibly familiar with because, then as a 911 emergency dispatcher, if a police officer calls you and asks you, "Can you run this person's name or license plate through Wales to see if any bench warrants come back on it?" Or can you run this person's social security number or name through NCIC to see if they have a criminal background or if they have any bench warrants on it? You have to be able to manipulate those systems and to be able to give that information to the police officers. Side note. Okay. So I pull off and I'm thinking to myself, he sat there all that time until I pulled off, despite the fact that he was in his car with his engine running and he had his child with him. Why did he sit there? I know what he was doing. I can guarantee you what he was doing was he was using a little police dashboard computer to run my license plate through Wales so he can figure out what my name was and then run my name through NCIC to figure out if I had any type of bench warrants or any type of criminal past so he can use that against my girlfriend, right? Because he was always trying to figure out a way to get full custody of the daughter. He was always trying to figure some shit out. So I was like, I'm 1,000% certain that's what he was doing. So, needless to say, the weekend passes. My girlfriend, she gets back home from Phoenix, Arizona, with her mother and stepfather from this big secret event that they were having. Secret event, not secret event, but this multi-level marketing company event called Secret. They get back from that, and I want to say a few days after that, she gets a summons from the court in the mail. And the summons is an emergency custody hearing. Okay. And she's like, what the hell? Like, what? She's like, what did you do? What took place? I'm like, exactly what I told you. I told you word for word what I said, what I did. There was nothing that was. Then she's like, why did he go to the court and file an emergency custody hearing against me? I'm like, I guess we're gonna find out. So we go to the hearing together. Obviously, they only want to talk to her and him, but I go there as support. And in this emergency custody hearing, he alleges that she was negligent and irresponsible by having the child around somebody who he is unfamiliar with. She doesn't know anything about this person. I don't know this person. The school doesn't know this person. The only people that are supposed to pick my daughter up are me, the mother, and immediate family members. So if you're not related to her through marriage or something like that, he shouldn't have been there picking her up in the first place. So she explains to the judge who was listening to him. She explains her side of it to the judge, and the judge is basically like, okay, I can kind of feel you, sir, when you say that you're not familiar with him and you had an issue with a guy that you're not familiar with picking your daughter up from school. However, okay, under these circumstances, it does not, I don't see how this warrants an emergency change in custody because you filed this petition. Does this gentleman, she said, ma'am, does the gentleman who you sent to pick your daughter up, is your daughter familiar with him? Has she spent time around him before? And she's like, yes. She's like, okay, is this gentleman a criminal? Does he have a criminal record of any kind? And she's like, no, he doesn't have a criminal record. He's actually prior military and he does armed security for like federal government and all of that kind of stuff. And she's like, no criminal record, no record pertaining to like criminal activity involving children, nothing like that. And she's like, no. So the judge looks at him and she's like, sir, I'm going to deny your petition for emergency custody just based on the fact that none of this warrants. This is like a waste of the court's time. She's like, you're going to pay for this court proceeding. Ma'am, you're free to go. Your emergency custody is denied. Everything will remain as it is. Okay. That's over with. But this pissed me off because he kept trying to make it seem as though I'm this strange man. Like I don't, it was something about that that really pissed me off. Now, as you guys know, if you've been here with me on the channel for quite some time, I did a video called How I Got Revenge on My Supervisor for Wrongfully Terminating Me. I am very, very calculated in how I'm going to destroy somebody if you come at me with anything that is disrespectful, anything that is unappreciated. So I said, you know what? Check this out, baby. This is what I'm gonna do. Since that's what he tried to do, since he tried to file emergency custody, since he tried to use that situation to try to gain an upper hand over you, I'm gonna tell you what I'm going to do and watch how this thing is gonna work. I knew that what he did was he looked at my license plate through Wells, looked at my name through NCIC. Now, in order to do that, you have to have something called a CAD ID, which tracks every single search that you do in either one of those systems. And the first thing that they tell you when you have the training for each one of those systems is you are not to use this information for personal matters. Because a lot of police officers, they like to see an attractive woman. They'll follow her. They'll make up some excuse to pull her over just so they can get her name, run all of that stuff through, figure out her social security number, her address, and figure out some way to stalk her. A lot of that has been a problem in the past. This is the reason why when you're trained, that's the first thing they say. You don't use this system for personal information, okay? It's that simple. So I knew that's what he did. 99%. I wasn't 100% certain, but I was confident enough that I could fix this issue. So I said, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do. Since he filed a summons for emergency custody to try to cause some type of disruption to your life over that situation, I'm gonna cause a little bit of disruption to his. I'm gonna file a restraining order against him. Now, as a duly sworn law enforcement officer, a restraining order is going to go in his service jacket and it's going to make him look unstable and it's going to make him look untrustworthy and it can cause some problems for him down the line. So I filed at the same court. Now, this is gonna freak y'all out. At the same court where they had the emergency custody hearing that he lost, I filed for the restraining order. He works in this court. Okay. He's a sheriff. He works in this fucking court. He knows the judges, the magistrates, the clerks. He knows all these people. He's like, sheriffs, they're kind of like deputized security officers, if that makes sense. They actually do security in the court when they're not serving a warrant or doing something of that nature. So he works in the court. Didn't make me know, never mind. I'm filing this to kind of jack up his reputation for what he tried to do to her. So I filed the restraining order. We had the hearing date. Actually, what happened was they were having a parent teacher conference. They were having a parent teacher conference at the elementary school where I was going to pick up my girlfriend's daughter, and they both were there, and they were talking to the teacher about her behavior in class, her grades, her attendance, all of these kind of things. Right? It was there that the petition for the restraining order. I'm calling it a restraining order, but I'm sure there's another technical term for it. It was there because the restraining order actually got delivered to the sheriff's department where he had to report, excuse me, where he had to report to for roll call every morning. It got delivered there. When it got delivered there, they called his personal phone and he was actually in the meeting, the parent teacher conference, when that phone call came through. He took the phone call and she was explaining to me because she was laughing about it. She was explaining to me like, yo, I think he got that shit right while we were in the parent teacher meeting because his phone rang and he saw that it was work and he was like, hold on for a second, can I take a brief break because this is for my job. And they was like, sure, go ahead. And he took the phone call. He kind of was like, huh, what do you mean? And then he got up and like kind of walked out to the hallway area and was out there talking. And I could see him like pacing back and forth, like his anger was building. Then he came back in the classroom and he was pissed. Like he didn't even want to say anything else to the teacher, anything else to me. He just kind of sat there and he was pissed. I'm like, yeah, they were probably calling him and telling him, yeah, we just got a summons for you to appear for a restraining order or keep away, whatever it's called, right? So I'm like, cool. Now, when we have that meeting, now when we have that hearing, I'm going to express everything that I need to express, which I know. I'm gonna express that stuff. So a few weeks pass. We have the court hearing for the restraining order. He's there with his wife. I show up there, um, and my girlfriend, who is his daughter's mother, is there for support for me. His wife is there to support for him. So the judge is like, keep in mind, I said this what this guy looks like, okay? Keep in mind the description I gave you. And I'm somebody who's very bold and outspoken when it comes to speaking to people who have uh the perception of authority. So the judge is like, yeah, so Mr. Rayhan, I understand that you're here for a restraining order against this gentleman over here. And I'm like, yeah, that's correct. Then he was like, can you state your name and all of that for the record, where your address or whatever stuff they asked you to say. So I said all of that stuff. And then they looked to him and they asked him to do the same. And he's like, yeah. And he was like, and where do you work? He's like, I'm a sheriff. I primarily work here in the courthouse. He was like, what is your rank? And he was like, I'm a corporal. I mean, no, he said, I'm a sergeant. I mean, I'm a lieutenant. He said, I'm a lieutenant. I mean, I'm a sergeant. I'm sorry, I'm a corporal. And I'm sitting up here like, this motherfucker don't even know his own rank. He must be about to lie. And then he was like, okay, now that we have that underway, Mr. Rayhan, can you please explain to us why you feel the need to have the a protection order? That's what it's actually called, a protection order put against this particular gentleman. And I'm like, I told them the entire story. I'm like, yo, I went to school. I went to pick my girlfriend's daughter up from school like she requested. She explained to me that she had tried to speak to him and he denied that he could do it because he was going to be out of town doing something else. So she had no other option except to ask me to pick her up from school and take her to her grandmother's house to drop her off with her two uncles and her aunt who live in the same house. When I got there, I was approached by him. He approached me in a very hostile manner. He kept his hand in his pocket, which indicated that he was concealing some type of weapon, which I believe he was going to use to try to defend himself after provoking me into a physical altercation. And then he was like, well, what makes you believe that he had a weapon in his pocket? Did you actually see the weapon? I said, no, but I work as an armed security officer, which is a parallel to law enforcement and what he does. I know what things to look for when somebody is concealing a weapon. And truth be told, if you look at me and you look at him, a guy of his size can do nothing against a guy of my stature. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 100, 215, 220 pounds, athletically built. This guy looks like fucking Porky Pig. He ain't going to be able to beat me in a fight. So obviously, he concealed a weapon when that fight took place that he was trying to provoke. Now, when I said this, I can remember hearing snickering coming from behind me. This is my girlfriend. She's laughing like, "Oh my god, I know he did not just say this in court on the record." You goddamn right I did. So the judge kind of dropped his head and started shaking his head like he's not even sure what to say at this point. So they asked him why didn't they asked him what took place and he explained his version of it. Yeah, I dropped my daughter off at school. She got sick, so I had to go back to school. I took her home for a little while and then I brought her back to the school at the end of the day. And then I saw some strange man show up in a red Dodge Charger. Who the fuck is giving descriptions of a car in a red Dodge Charger? And my daughter was in the back, and I was like, "Baby, I need you to point out this man that's supposed to be coming to pick you up." And she said, "That's him." No, she said, "I think that's him." She didn't even know who he was. She didn't even know anything about him, and this and that and the other. And yeah, so when I confronted him to let him know he's not to pick my daughter up, he became really hostile with me, and you know what I mean, all of this and that and the third. And I'm like, I'm not gonna deny or affirm anything that he's just said. I just told you guys what took place. I think if you listen to what he told you, he's basically admitting the exact same thing that I told you. That's the reason why I need a protection order against him, because he's proven to be unstable and trying to provoke a physical altercation in front of an elementary school where children are. It doesn't make sense. And the fact that he was concealing some type of weapon in his pocket. Clearly, that's a danger to myself and a danger to the children in the school. So the judge was like, okay, I can't find any reason to approve this protection order. It just looks like it's two guys in here that are having some type of pissing contest or something like that. So, Mr. Rayhan, I'm going to deny your protection order. And I guess the two parents, they'll work out how this situation should move forward in the future. So after it was over with, I mean, I didn't give a shit. I just wanted to do it to let him know, before you come for her as her boyfriend, I'm designated to protect her, which means I will fucking destroy you in protection of her, right? I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere when I realized he worked in the exact same court. After the hearing is over and they cut the audio off, the fucking judge looks at him and he's like, "Hey, yeah, so I haven't seen you around here in a little while. What's been going on with you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I was on vacation and yeah, I just got back and then I got reassigned to a different unit and yeah, that's the reason for it." And I'm sitting up here like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Is this motherfucker really having playful banter with somebody who's on the defendant stand right now? I should fucking sue your ass just for that." But like I said, no big deal to me. I already knew what it was. So I said, we left. We go back home. He goes back with his wife. He's humiliated. He's pissed. I basically said on the record, this guy looks like fucking Porky Pig. He's not a physical match for anybody. That's the reason why he was concealing the weapon. And I was like, yo, it ain't over though. And she's like, what you mean? I said, please believe me, that was just an appetizer. I'm about to finish this motherfucker in the main course. What's the main course, you may say? Well, I know he works for the sheriff's department. I know now with almost 99% certainty that this motherfucker used the police databases, the police computer dash cam to look up my personal and private information, which he's not supposed to be using for personal use. So what did I do? I filed a complaint with the sheriff's department alleging everything that I just said. That he looked up my license plate, unauthorized use to look up my license plate in Wales, unauthorized use to look up my name in NCIC. This gave him access to my address, which he's not supposed to have, my social security number, which he's not supposed to have. This is a violation of my privacy, a violation of my rights. And you will do something about it, or I will sue this county and this state for having an unstable employee like him working for you. What do you think happened? A week and a half later, I received a letter in the mail saying, Mr. Rayhan, we received your allegations of we received your complaint of allegations against Corporal Bynum was his last name, Corporal Bynum, and we are taking this matter very seriously. Rest assured that an investigation is being conducted, and we will get with you when we find the conclusion of the investigation. I showed her this. Now, at the time, she and I were living together because she was pregnant with my daughter. So at the time, she and I were living together. I show her the letter when it comes in the mail. I'm like, hold on, what is this? This from the sheriff's department. Open that shit up, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, So I hold it up in front of her, and she's looking. She's like, oh my god. She was like, yo, you really like motherfucking James St. Patrick. You really are. And if, for those of y'all who don't know, James St. Patrick, main character in Power, Ghost slash James St. Patrick, that is my fucking guy. So yeah, I kind of model how I take actions against people who try to harm me or my loved ones. I kind of model it after he does shit. I mean, he and I are very similar in how we operate. Shout out to Amari Hardwick if you see this video. I fucks with you. But anyway, I show her the letter, and she's like really impressed, and I'm like, yeah. Now I can guarantee you, when they do the investigation, they're gonna have to audit his CAD ID, and they're gonna have to see every search that he made on that CAD ID. So I told them in my complaint the date of the occurrence and the approximate time. Now every day from that date moving forward, they're going to look at his CAD ID and they're going to see how many times they can see my name pop up, my license plate, all of it, how many times he searched it. So I want to say probably like a month had gone by and I hadn't heard anything from it. And I was just thinking to myself, oh, no, you ain't about to bullshit me. You're going to do the fuck you supposed to do about this shit, right? So I called, no, I sent an email to the sheriff's department. I actually called up there first to get an email to whomever it is that's supposed to be conducting the investigation. And they gave me like a general email. So I took that email address and I sent a threatening email to that address like, why has it been a month since you all touched bases with me about the status of an investigation that's taking place with Corporal Bynum for violating my fucking rights? I guarantee you, if I don't hear from you in the next week, I'm going to file a lawsuit in the district court against this agency and against the state if appropriate action is not taken against them. Right? What do you think happened? A week later, another letter came from the sheriff's department to my house. She's home, and I'm like, oh, hey, baby, come here, come here right quick. So she comes up. I said, we got another letter from the sheriff's department. Let's open it and let's read it together. So we open the joint. It says, Mr. Rayhan, we are pleased to inform you that the conclusion of the investigation has yielded the following results. Corporal Bynum did use his CAD ID to search your license plate through Wales and NCIC. I fucking knew he did. He did use NCIC or look your name up multiple times over the span of a week and a half through Wales and NCIC. And this constitutes I can't remember the three charges that I tried to put against them for it, but they only sustained one of them, which was like inappropriate use of government equipment or something like that. It was the least severe one out of the three that I alleged was the one that they tried to sustain, right? Now, mind you, they had called me into the sheriff's department to get my entire recollection about this. And I remember when I got there to do my recollection, um, the interviewer called in one other person. I have no fucking idea who this other guy was. I assume he was his supervisor. She was like, yeah, he came in, he sat in on a meeting. So as the interviewer started recording and asking me questions, and I'm explaining to her certain parts of the story, he's like, no, we don't need you to say all that. We need to know exactly what you did. And I kind of looked at him like, nigga, who the fuck is you talking to? So the interviewer kind of looked at him and was like, yeah, calm down. I asked him the question. I'm the one leading the interview. I need to hear everything he has to say. And I kind of looked at him and he kind of looked at me and kind of like straightened up like, hey, this motherfucker right here. This, you can kind of tell this is what he was feeling, right? Said everything I needed to say. And that's what they investigated. That's what I had given them all the information about what he had done, what I was 99% certain that he had done. And they took all of that. And like I said, when they investigated it, the findings were exactly what I thought they would be. And he was disciplined. I'm not sure what his discipline was. I believe they just gave him a reprimand of some kind and they put it in his service jacket. And I believe it was supposed to sit in his service jacket for a period of, I think, a year. So if it was any other instances of him getting in any kind of trouble, then they can start progressive discipline. This was my plan. So after they sustain um, his punishment, this motherfucker continues to work because it wasn't like they were suspending him without pay or terminating him, anything like that. He continues to work, but he's pissed because he's realizing that all of his scheming against her, she now has somebody that's in a protective status that is going to do the same thing right back to you. And I'm gonna do it better. I'm gonna do that shit way better. So he's pissed. He's at work one day. Shortly after they reprimand him for that shit, he's at work one day. He gets a call while he's at work. Domestic violence is what the call was. Some girl had broken up with her boyfriend, and I guess her boyfriend said, "Meet me at this location so I can get my keys back. You got to get the fuck out of my apartment." So she met him at the shopping center, and instead of giving him the keys, she wanted to argue about why she should be able to keep the keys and this and that and the other. So he was like, "Nah, I'm not doing none of that. Blah blah blah. Let me get my keys. I'm done. I don't fuck with you no more. This and that and the third." So he's actively trying to get his keys from her, and she's like hiding them behind her back and like turning away from him. He don't want to put his hands on her. He just wants his keys. So she calls the police, and they hear arguing between her and him. Guess who responds? Motherfucking Officer Porky Pig and another officer respond to this call. Now they got transferred out of the court into the domestic violence unit where they respond strictly to calls that were domestic violence. And it's because this is in progress. They got their lights on, their sirens, all of that shit. They're coming in with all the bells and whistles. So they pull up to the shopping center. The guy sees them when the police officers come. He looks at her and like, bitch, you called the police? Man, fuck this shit. Gets in his car. He pulls off. They give chase. They don't even stop to talk to her. They don't even get out of their cars at all. When they see him pull off, they immediately start chasing his vehicle. Now he goes down this fucking road. It's a major road, but it's pretty long. It takes you out of their jurisdiction. So he drives down that road for miles. They're behind him, lights on, sirens going. He drives into another jurisdiction where they weren't even supposed to follow, but they followed him anyway. And then he drives around that jurisdiction for a little while, spins the car back around, comes back up the same road he came up. They follow him again. He actually pulls into a school parking lot. He pulls off to one of the side streets, goes into a school parking lot because now he's just trying to spin him. He's just trying to get away. He don't want to talk to the police at all. So he tries to spin him in the school parking lot. He goes in. It's only one way in and one way out. Okay. He realizes that. So he turns his car around. They already box him in. So once they box him in, they use their cars to kind of block the driveway. He drives and smashes into their cars to try to force his way through their car so he can continue to get away. After he hits it the first time, their cars don't move. He backs up and he starts to drive towards it and hit it a second time. And that's when Officer Porky Pig in his vehicle and the other officer in his vehicle draw their firearms. Officer Porky Pig, in a fit of rage about being reprimanded for violating my rights, fires multiple shots through his windshield into the windshield of the other car, killing this particular guy. Now, when the shots start firing, the other officer, like, oh shit, he's shooting. I better start shooting too. So he pulls his gun out. He starts shooting too. They kill this guy dead in the passenger seat of his car, right? They call in EMS, paramedics. They make all the appropriate calls they need to make. And when they come get interviewed, they're like, why did you guys shoot? And they're like, well, he tried to ram into our car. He rammed into our car once, and he tried to do it a second time. And we knew that he had a knife because we could hear her saying something like that over the phone or something like that, just making all this shit up. So they go search his car to recover this knife that he's supposed to have. There's no knife in the car. So to try to show some of the corruption that takes place in the police department, what do you think they did? They took a pocket knife that one of them had, cleaned their fingerprints off of it, put it in his fucking car. And then that's when they fucking fake like they found it, like, yo, yeah, here's the knife that we heard her talking about right here. That's the reason why we shoot. We knew he was armed in some kind of way. We just wasn't sure what it was. Trying to justify why they took these shots. Killed this guy. Now both of them get placed on suspension while being investigated, because after a shooting, you can't just come back to work. They got to be investigated, got to figure out, make sure everything is a justified shooting. And they kept finding so many holes and so many gaps in their story that they knew something wasn't right. The family decided that they were going to sue him personally and sue the agency. So he was on suspension from work for a couple years, going back and forth to court, all these different court hearings, trying to figure out what's going to happen. Is he going to keep his job? Is he going to be fired? Is he going to go to jail on criminal charges? Years, all of this shit happened, right? So anyway, at the conclusion of the court case, I think the family had ended up suing him for $20,000. And during the entire court case, they kept calling his phone. They figured out where he lived. They kept making all types of threats. We gonna fuck you up. We gonna get you when we see you out in the street. You killed our cousin. You killed our son, or whatever the case may be. Whatever the relationship was, they were actively looking for him. Conclusion of the court case: the court finds that it was a justified shooting, and he avoids criminal charges. The family sues for 20,000. I'm not entirely sure if they got the 20,000 from him or whether they got it from the state. But I believe the family did end up winning 20 to 25,000 as a result of what had taken place. He goes on working. This guy's clearly a problem, right? Now, get this. All of this is kind of still happening at the time that I got the results back, that I got the letter back, because obviously they had already made their determination. And I remember responding like kind of like with disbelief that out of everything that I alleged, you only sustained the least severe action out of the three, but the least severe action actually justifies the other two that you dismissed. I'm like, I'm trying to tell y'all better do something about this motherfucker before he brings some type of dishonor to your honorable agency, or he fucks around and kills somebody. Now, mind you, my girlfriend had already told me that the shooting had taken place when I gave them that response. I knew that giving them that response, they were going to add that to his service jacket, and they were going to make it seem, and it was going to seem like this guy can clearly see that this corporal is unstable, and he's been trying to warn us about him, and this motherfucker goes out there and does exactly what this guy is alleging and fucking shoots somebody. Shows how unstable he is, how emotionally erratic he is. That's what I did, right? Anyway, he ends up continuing to work, but then he has some type of injury that makes him unable or unfit for work, and he ends up losing that job, not by termination, but simply because he was physically unfit. I think his fat ass like was trying to hang up Christmas decorations or some shit, and he fell from like the top of the ladder and ended up breaking his leg or some crazy shit, some shit that Porky Pig motherfuckers would do. But yeah, that's he ended up not being able to work as a result of that. But the story continues. Obviously, my girlfriend and I get married. Now his daughter becomes my stepdaughter. Okay. So now there has to be some type of co parenting relationship between she and he and me. You know, but I'm like I said, I like to take a back seat because this is not my biological child. Only thing I'm here for is to make sure you don't get disrespectful with her, you don't threaten her, or you got to deal with me, basically. So one day, One day, my now wife decides that she wants to enroll her daughter into Girl Scouts. Now, Girl Scouts, they meet at different churches, but on this particular day, they were meeting at a major church. He didn't like the fact that she would schedule her for these activities and it would take place during weekends that she was expected to be with him. I mean, it would take place every weekend, but he didn't like the fact that she was doing something to tie up his weekends, and she would try to complain if he didn't take her there. Okay, this was a big deal. This particular meeting was a big deal though. So he was taking her. It was his weekend, so he was bringing her, but we were going to be there too. So we drove separately. We get to the Girl Scouts event, and we kind of sit in the parking lot because we're looking for his car. We don't see his car, so we're trying to figure out if he's even going to bring her or not because we don't know. So we sit there for a while, and then we see his car finally pull up. I'm like, oh shit, there he is. He's actually bringing her. Cool. We get to go in and we get to support whatever it is that she's about to do. So when he pulls up, he immediately gets out of the car, gets her out the back, and he grabs her hand and start walking kind of fast. Like he didn't want. He was walking as if he was late, which he wasn't. So it told me that he just didn't want us to interact with her because she was in his care and custody at the time. So I get out the car and I call her name, and she doesn't respond. I mean, I can see her trying to like try to turn around, but he kind of yanked her arm real tight to make sure that she kept moving. So I start walking behind him, and I call her name again. And then that's when she kind of turns a full turn, and now he can't yank her because if he does, I can see it. So I was like, what's up, baby? You okay? You know what I'm saying? Everything cool? We excited to see you and your little thing. He's kind of standing there. He's still pissed, mind you, because he got reprimanded, he got suspended, all of these things because he tried to bring harm her way, and I destroyed his ass. So he's pissed. He really can't stand me. And I was like, hey, broski, what's your problem, bro? Like, what really is your problem? Like, he was like, I was like, why you always giving her mom a hard time? I don't quite understand, bro. And he looked at me and he's like, dude, I was with that girl for 8 years. Everything I went through, you gonna go through it too. And when he said this, I kind of looked off to the side as if there was a television production camera that was recording this, right? Like if you've ever seen that shit in a movie or a TV show, I looked off like somebody was filming this moment, and it was like, make sure you remember this moment. It was like emphasis on this moment. That's why when he said it, it was kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, and whew, I'm not gonna get into it in this video, but boy, when I tell you that motherfucker was right, that motherfucker was right. I remember years later when she started doing the exact same shit to me that I watched her do to him. I remember having that come to terms moment where I was like, this motherfucker ain't never lied. I'm not going to get into that in this video because this video is already running very long, but we're going to talk about that in a future video. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude the story of the things that took place when I first met my stepdaughter's father. Once again, I am the real Rayhan. And if you guys enjoyed this story time here on my channel, do me a favor, smash the like button. It is located somewhere in this general area where my finger is pointing. And if you're new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe and ask that you do turn on your notifications so you can be notified when I upload the next video in this playlist or one of my many other playlists. And as one last reminder, I have launched channel memberships here on my channel. If you're interested in joining, the description The link can be found in the description. Just remember, the benefits of being a member on this channel is there will be early access to videos that I release in the future, as well as members only exclusive videos that will be here on the channel that you will not be able to view unless you are a member here on the channel. The prices for my memberships, not expensive at all. They cost less than a bag of Doritos for those of you that like Doritos like myself. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys on this beautiful afternoon. I want to thank you for joining me, and as always, I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Enjoy your weekends. Peace.